JB here, February 26th, 2025, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Talk about the markets, some names I'm looking at, and go from there. S&P futures bouncing. Well, they were bouncing a little more than they are now, just a little pull, but S&P is about 0.4% to the upside. Looks like that's where we're going to open, pending any crazy move. The NASDAQ up nearly 0.6%. Small caps lagging a little bit, up 0.3%, but maybe we get a bounce here. But we've been gapping higher, or at least pointing to a bounce Monday and Tuesday, and then we have those opening reversals. So I think it'll be very important here this morning to see how the markets react from that 9:30 to seems between 10:30 and 11 o'clock has been the bottom, right? So even if we do pull again, just want to see that hold, right? So that's kind of that. It's funny, I put in a watch I was talking about in a rant yesterday afternoon. It's like the headlines of why the market sold off yesterday was because of consumer confidence. Meanwhile, we've gotten other reads already on consumer confidence that have come in weaker than expected. So yesterday's wasn't a surprise, but it came out at 10 o'clock. And meanwhile, at 10 o'clock, the SPY was already at 594. So it had already reversed the opening highs and then some. So it wasn't like that was the catalyst. Well, I mean, it makes a great headline. People are trying to rationalize the move. We'll have to watch. So after the close today, big earnings. You got obviously NVDA. I think it's what 10.6% implied moves, $13. You also have Snowflake, Salesforce, a lot of other names reporting. It's going to be a very important earnings report, right? I mean, we had the DeepSeek blow up, so probably some commentary there, and then you want to see obviously a huge beat and raise. But then on the flip side, I'm looking at MicroStrategy. I guess you call it strategy now, but I mean, to me, I think that's like the bigger story here. And the lower it goes, the more I think there'll be worries, right? Concerns. And we've seen big upheavals in the market when we had Bill Hwang, whatever his name was, back with the GameStop blow up. That all happened at the same time. But back, I think it was January 2021 or whatever, or 2020, where he had highly levered, right? He would used to watch, and Paramount he had positions in, I think Discovery, Baidu, and then I think that Education China ADR, I forget what the name of that one was, but there was he used to watch on a daily basis. I'd be like, wow, look at those stocks go, and you thought maybe it was some just buyers, and no, it was Bill Hwang using 100 times leverage at $1 billion to just go nuts. And then you see all the filings and the discussions he had with his partners to buy, buy. And then when he had to unravel with the positions, you saw those stocks tank. And I'm not saying the same thing happens here with MicroStrategy, but it's like, I think there's, especially on the way up, everybody kind of piled in. So what's going to happen if this continues to go? So, crypto, Bitcoin's down nearly 2% here, hitting lows, $86. MicroStrategy, which was at 260 just 2-3 hours ago, is now hitting lows here. So that's something I'm just going to be watching here. That's kind of my concern. All right, so that's the market here. 590.49 is kind of like the line in the sand again here today. I didn't think yesterday was going to hit by 10 o'clock. It hit, so can't rule anything out here. I hope we find some consolidation, and even if we chop around here, maybe the small caps finally. I mean, I know I'm a broken record for the last year and a half, but maybe finally those can start to go. We do have history on our side, at least in 2025. Nice little chart here. This is from Market Watch. If you look at the days, and I was talking about this, Mondays and Fridays have been horrible. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, outside of yesterday, have been strong performance, and Wednesday has been the best performing day for 2025. So if history, at least for 2025, is on our side, today's gonna be a great day for markets. That's that. And I always talk about the silver lining. Look at yields all the way back to December, early December lows on the 10-year, and TLT's down up 5 straight days in a row. As TLT goes up, that means yields are going down. At 10 o'clock, we get January new home sales, so maybe that can kind of put a little positive spin in the markets. Find some kind of some floor at least, or some optimism outside of all the other stuff we've been seeing. Also, this morning, Lowe's reported a decent quarter. I think their best revenue growth in 2 years. So maybe the tide is turning. Last but not least, small caps, and that 215 handle on the IWM has been great support, and we've had some nice bounces off it. So maybe that will be finally the start of some reversals. All right, so individual names at first, just the put hedges. JP Morgan served its purpose yesterday, opened at 262 or so, then hit 263 and just fell for the next hour. I was able to lock some of the puts in for 100%, then some more at 300%, and then I just held a couple more, just as protection, right? It's a little easier to grab speculative call positions when you have protection from downside, right? So you can't say I can't say 100% certainty that the market's going to rally. So uh, it's to me it helps kind of get at least a little stronger hands on holding some call positions. So I'll continue to hold those. You take a look at the 50-day moving average. JPM's 255. I maybe 260. My calls are still the last of my calls still a little bit in the green. If it breaks over 260, depending what the puts, excuse me, depending on what those look like, I might just salvage those and revisit. Talked about getting another put hedge on that break of 590.49 on the SPY. Sure enough, it happened. So I was looking for a position that, or at least a stock that really hasn't succumbed to the market. And you take a look at Visa and MasterCard, they've been rocks. And considering a consumer confidence situation, you would think those would be some of the names that would be under pressure, and they haven't been. So uh, at some point, those going to succumb to pressure. It looked like it was going to do it yesterday. Once I got those puts, they were up almost close to 100%, and then it started to bounce, close pretty much at highs. I'll be watching again today, maybe 355. I'll look to salvage, but I'll continue to hold those. So some other names. So CAVA reported earnings after the close yesterday. Some great earnings, or decent earnings. Stocks sold off at first down to 90, then bounced. I think it's at 103 right now. I don't have it up on my main streamer. Yeah, 102.65. So I think that bodes well for Sweet Green. Sweet Green's been cut in half. Kava's been cut a bit, but not cut in half from its highs. But I think there's an opportunity. Hopefully it puts some wind in the sails of Sweet Green here today. I'll lock the calls in for some green, pun intended, and then maybe revisit post earnings. It's not a name I've really traded before, so I don't have the highest conviction on a great report. And even if they do, maybe I got the 30 strikes, so I need a large move here. So I'll probably take that risk off and revisit. Other name I was posting a chart all day yesterday in the chat room, but AXGN, right? Nerve repair, great story. I'll be watching if it's green today. It could be the start of a bigger move into the mid to high 20s and possibly 30 in the coming weeks. So don't be surprised. April 25 probably look good on a risk war basis. Might grab some of those. And then under the sheets, or however you want to call it, kind of hiding under the rubble has been some of these names that have been holding up pretty well. And some of the biotech names, the larger cap, not the mega cap names, but Biogen, Regeneron. Biogen, again, I think it's 4 straight sessions to the upside, up 1.5% yesterday. Premiums look pretty inexpensive on a risk reward basis. So I may look to get some calls there, maybe for a break over that 50-day moving average, a spot it hasn't been over in nearly a year. Regeneron premiums are expensive, and they just had some data this morning, so probably won't chase that one, or at least try and get some spec calls there. But don't be surprised if I add some Biogen calls on strength today. And then Caterpillar and URI, those both look ready. Caterpillar more so, and the calls look a little more attractive. Play Caterpillar, it's up nearly 1%, and the Dow was up in the green yesterday. So I think some of that had to do with Home Depot, but Caterpillar could be a name I look to get some spec calls on if the market holds green today. And then last but not least, here is Lemonade. And, I was looking for calls on Lemonade. I was saying the conviction is similar to what happened with Solar Edge and Unity. I mean, Solar Edge in particular. Solar Edge was either going to be over $20 or under $10. And of course, it went over $20, but it has since come down. Lemonade, similar story. I thought it was going to be either over 50, maybe even 55 plus, or I thought low 20s. The earnings came out. I thought it was a good read. A nice beat, just a little disappointing on revenue guidance. You read the shareholder letter. I mean, it's like, I think they have all the balls are rolling in the right direction. It just has a high short interest, and people who are short the name are probably not going to let it go. And you can see I wouldn't call it manipulation, but it's the shorts. If you trade long enough, you see names that are highly shorted have these crazy moves in the after hour session. Clear Secure, which reported earnings this morning, is one of those names that it just defies logic sometimes. And the only logical answer you can have is that someone is in there who's highly levered in a short position using the pre-market for shenanigans, right? So I don't, if Lemonade finds a bid here and reverses, maybe over $30, I'll look for some spec calls, because at some point that's going to go on Squeeze 2.0. And that's it, folks. I'm out of breath. I'm trying to think of some of the other names here this morning. I'm TripAdvisor, a little flat. Would love to see that back over its 50 and 200-day moving average. That one's been a tough one. Still like iRobot here, but just a tough one. Maybe if it regains its 50 and 200-day moving average. Yeah, in regards to Clear Secure, ticker YOU if you don't know which one I'm talking about. Strong beat and raise. They just announced another buyback too. It's it's a name. It's just such a great fundamental story, but people are able to poke holes in it because it's like they don't do something that disrupts, but they do, but they don't, right? I mean, the TSA checks people into airports, right? But that's what Clear Secure does. But there's more to it, you know? Uh, but another beat and raise, and it's like I could look at it and say this is a $30, $40 stock at minimum, but it might reverse. And a lot of times earnings over the last 2 or 3 years, it'll gap up on a strong report and then give back all those gains before the end of the day. So it's almost like too frustrating to trade. So as much as I want to get calls or watch it, I'll probably just sit on the sidelines on that one. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.